country are here to stand in solidarity against gun control. I want to thank all of you for coming out on such a cold day.
Well, we won't back down. We're gonna stand our ground. We know you're trying to open the gates of hell, but we won't back down. So yes, we'll stand our ground. We won't be pushed around. We must keep you from putting our kids in the ground, so we can't stand down. No, we won't back down. We won't back down, baby. There ain't no easy way out. We can't stand down, brother. So we'll stand our ground. And no, we won't back down. 'Cause we know what's right. And we got plenty of fight. And if you think you're gonna keep pushing us around, well, you'll lose that crown. 'Cause we won't back down. We won't back down, baby. There ain't no easy way out. We can't back down, brother. We've got to stand our ground. And no, we won't back down. You know, it's pretty clear. If these lunatics think they have the right to strip us of our rights of self-defense, and if they're willing to do that, what else are they willing to do? We won't back down, baby. There ain't no easy way out. We can't back down, brother. No, we won't back down. Back down, baby. There ain't no easy way out. We can't back down, brother. We've got to stand our ground. So we won't back down. No, we won't back down. Virginians, you won't fight this fight alone.
There we are. I just lost sound. Can you guys still hear me? Oh, well, I can't hear sound. Anyway, if you can hear me, good evening, everyone. Ed Levine coming to you live here on Facebook Live. Happy St. Patrick's Day. I've got my green on, joined with President Philip Van Cleve and Secretary Treasurer Pat Webb. Hi, everybody. So I'm going to work on why I can't hear what's going on. And Philip, why don't you take it away?
Comment if they can hear me on the comment.
Can hear you now. Okay. Yay.
Okay.
There we go.
All right. So I'm assuming if you can't hear us, make a note in the comment. Okay. All right.
We can hear.
We're good.
We can hear now.
Okay. Well,
Everything's good.
Got some good stuff to cover today. Going to cover a variety of things. One of the things that just came out, and a lot of times I like to, if something's coming out close to the time we do this virtual meeting, I like to announce it there so the people listening
get the first heads up. The score for the legislature, the voting record score, has now been completed, and I had just put it on our website, and you'll be able to take a look at it if you wish. You just go to what is it, Virginia Politics, and then you'll see where it says voting record, General Assembly voting record, and then you click on 2022. And there, it's a PDF. It's actually a fairly big PDF, because if you've never looked at one of these, I do one every year, but if you haven't looked at it, it has, first it's got the voting record sorted by the senator's name. Then you got a separate list sorted by the delegate's name for the House of Delegates. Then behind that, you've got it ranked where the top legislator in the Senate, is at the top, and it goes down from there, and the same for the House in their section. Then you have a breakdown for every senator and every delegate, all 140 of them, for each one, how we came up with their score. In other words, what was the bill that they voted on? How did they vote? And every time they voted on it, that's also every vote they've done on any bill is all recorded that deals with gun rights and the bills that we're following. So the number one senator this year for gun rights was, again, and he's done this over and over again, Senator Mark Obenshain.
Hey, Mark.
We're talking 100% voting record, and he had a score of 32. Now, let me talk about the scores. Some bills are more important than others. Some things we kind of go, yeah, that would be nice to have, or others it's like, wow, we want this. And so for the really wow bills, there's a 2-point credit that a legislator gets when they support the bill, and a -2 if they don't. That's in other words, that's a strongly support bill. If it's just a support bill, they get 1 point for a vote. Then you've got an opposed bill, which is a -1 point, and a strongly opposed, which is -2. And Senator Obenshain got 32 points, which is probably going to be 8 votes that he did on gun bills. Perfect score. What did I do with my notes? There were, where did I, nuts, I tallied this up. Oh, I know. Hold on a sec. Okay. There were, of the 40 senators, 15 of them had 100% voting record, voted with us every time correctly. Now, some, that's a bigger feat than others. Obenshain was on a key committee, so he got to vote left and right on gun bills. And so did, for example, Ryan McDougal. Senator McDougal is also on the same committee, and he got to vote on the same number of bills. The reason that Obenshain squeaked out a win over Ryan McDougal was because Senator Obenshain carried a bill for VCDL. The bill didn't make it, but he put it in for us. And there's an extra credit given every time one of our bills is put in. And that gave him 32 points versus Ryan McDougal's 30. But the 30 was nothing to sneeze at. That's also 100%, no bad votes. And it goes down from there. Some of these guys some of the ones at the top had the most votes, the most voting opportunities. And some of them, sometimes they couldn't make the committee when the vote was in, or maybe they were sick that day. So they didn't get as many opportunities overall. But their scores are fairly close. That would be Mark Peake, Bill Stanley, Richard Stewart. So I'll quickly just give you the list of those that scored 100%. These are all senators now. We'll do the House shortly. Again, Mark Obenshain, Ryan McDougal, Mark Peake, Bill Stanley, Richard Stewart, Bryce Reeves, Amanda Chase, Travis Hackworth, Stephen Newman, Todd Pillion, who, by the way, put in the switchblade bill that made it into law. John Cosgrove, Bill DeStaff, Jennifer Kiggins, Frank Ruff, and David Suterline. And then there are only 4 other those are all Republicans. There were no Democrats with a score anywhere near that high in the Senate. Next came Tommy Norman, who was at 73%. So it goes from 100% to 73 with Tommy Norman. Jill Vogel got 67%, and let's see, Siobhan Donovan had 50%. Now, if you're sitting down, Emmett Hanger, the last Republican on the list, had 0. He did not have any good votes on guns. Now, breaking down some of these guys, like taking a look at the ones that got hit really hard, Norman doesn't really have an excuse. He had 30 chances to vote. He voted right 22 times and wrong 22 points and got 8 points for being wrong. Vogel only had a chance to vote for 3 bills. She got 2 right and 1 wrong, so that gave her 67%. Donovan only got to vote for 2 bills instead of 3, and she got 1 right and 1 wrong, so that knocked her down to 50%. Emmett Hanger had 2 chances to vote, and he got both of them wrong. Now, at the back of as I say, at the back of this report, when you take this PDF and look at it, it's 150 pages. You probably don't want to print it, but look at it on the screen. You can then search, for example, for Hanger, and you can find out what bills he voted on. And it gives the bill number and everything. And you can then look at what it was that he was opposing. Looking at the Democrats, the number 1 Democrat in the Senate was Linwood Lewis Jr. with a 33% vote. So quite a ways down from Senator Donovan. He had 3 chances to vote. He voted right once and voted wrong twice. Chap Peterson had 13 chances to vote. He's another one that was on this committee that had all kinds of chances to vote on gun bills. He voted right once and wrong 12 times. And that's it. Everybody else in the Senate, from my Senator Hashmi, who's never voted right on anything, down Mason, Spruill, Barker, Favola, Howell, Locke, Marsden, Pike, Eben, Morrissey, Boysko, Suravel, Deeds, and Edwards, all of those, and Lucas, McClellan, and Sasslaw all got 0s. They didn't vote once right. So again, we see this divide between Republicans and Democrats with a few little exceptions on our gun rights. Now
my senator's in the 0 pile.
Yeah. Well, so is mine. Hashmi's mine, and she as usual has voted wrong on everything.
Well, I don't want to brag or anything, but mine's in a very good pile.
Yeah, I know. Well, years ago I had put it in a good pile. Okay,
Me too.
all right.
Me too. Back in the days of Dick Black.
My delegate. Let me see. My delegate should be in the good pile on the House. Yeah, he is. All right. Now, looking at the House of Delegates, they had a lot more gun bills over there than they did in the Senate. The number 1 guy, again, and deservedly so, was Nick Freitas. Delegate Freitas swept it. He had 68 points and 0, of course. So that's the 100% mark. Thank
you, Nick.
And for those guys that have Marie March, she came in second.
Wow.
A freshman came in second.
Long gone are those rules where you come in as a freshman and they tell you just sit quiet and don't make any waves.
I don't think you tell Marie March to sit quiet. I don't think that works very well.
But it bears mentioning that we had an awesome freshman group of both senators and delegates this year.
Well,
look at the number of bills that Tim Anderson put in.
Well, as you'll see here, the next in line is Ferris. The third one is Ferris, which he's been in for a while, but he's always been right at the top. But AC Cordoza, he's 4th. That's a freshman. AC Cordoza, 100% score, 52 points and 0, of course, against. Bill Wiley. We got Campbell, Glenn Davis, Amanda Batten, Michael Webert, Ren Williams, another freshman. Tim Anderson, was putting in bills left and right. Another one that you don't tell to go sit down. He put in a lot for a freshman. He did an amazing job. Mike Cherry, Otto Waxman. Cherry and Waxman are both freshmen. They're right there with 100% votes, 18 points for both of them. John McGuire, who's been in for a while. Philip Scott's a new. Wendell Walker, Buddy Fowler, Danny Marshall, Scott Wyatt, Les Adams. This list goes on for almost the whole Republican side of the House. Of the 52 Republicans, 45 of those Republicans are 100%ers. 45 of 52. Now that's somebody that believes in gun rights. Now it drops off. Jason Ballard dropped to 97%. He lost a little bit from a bill that was put in that it didn't go anywhere, and we didn't like the bill. It was giving special privileges to the police to be able to carry Capitol Square that were off duty, and we said, well, permit holders need to be able to carry too. So we opposed that bill, but that knocked off 3% for him. Tony Wilt got 95%. Tony's voting record is impeccable, but he's the chairman of a committee. And let me pause because we're going to be hitting a few things here that it's going to have to explain this. So bear with me. Some of the grading is a little tricky when it comes to the Speaker of the House and committee chairs. And let me explain why. The Speaker of the House is at the top of the food chain. He can decide whether a bill lives or dies. He can take a bill and lock it away so it never gets a hearing. And it just wilts on the vine and dies, never getting a chance to even be voted on. That's called a pocket veto because he's taken the bill, he's put it in his pocket and forgotten about it. And it dies of starvation. There's nothing that happens with it. That's called a pocket veto. Now, the chairman of a committee can do the same thing. He can have a bill assigned to his committee that he never gets around to actually bringing in front of the committee and voting on. And so he does a pocket veto. So this was a problem that really became a big issue years ago. And was with a Republican speaker back then, not the one we have now. But basically I had to look at that and say, we have to have some way of holding the Speaker of the House accountable for things. And we have to have a way of holding chair people accountable if they don't hear a bill. We want our bills heard and voted on. Now, the bill may not make it. Whether it makes it or not, the people that actually voted, get either pluses or minuses depending on how they voted. But we want our bills heard. We want to get those votes. Even if we know it's going to die in the Senate, we want it to go to the Senate, and we want those people to vote on it so we've got their record down. When election times come, we want as much evidence as possible of who's good and who's bad. So if the Speaker takes a bill and pocket vetoes it, it's a bill that never gets assigned to a committee, or it's assigned to, the only committee it's assigned to is the Speaker's committee, which is called the Rules Committee. Then if that bill is left there to die, we dock the Speaker for that. If it's a pro-gun bill, he gets docked as if he had an anti-gun vote. If it's an anti-gun bill, we'll give him points for killing their bill. We don't care what happens to the other side's bills. They can fight their own battles. But if he wants to pocket veto a gun control bill, then we'll give him credit for that, but not one of ours. If the bill's assigned to a committee and the bill never gets heard, we dock the Speaker and we dock the committee chairman. Again, because they control this. We want our bills heard. Now, and the reverse is there. Again, if the committee chair decides not to hear a gun control bill, we'll give him credit, and the Speaker credit for that. And finally, if a bill gets to the floor that we like, and it gets to vote however the vote turns out, doesn't matter, we give the Speaker credit for that to kind of make things fair. If it gets to the floor, not pocket vetoed the whole way, gets there, gets a vote, whether it wins or loses, we give him credit. If it's an anti-gun bill and it doesn't get to the floor, he gets credit for that, a positive credit. So it's a little complicated formula because the speaker in Virginia is the most powerful speaker in the country. Nobody else has the power our speaker has. Our speaker can appoint who's on the committee from both parties. He completely picks the committee. The other party has no voice in who gets put on a committee. That's totally up to the speaker. He's got tremendous power. He can do wonderful things. He can do not so wonderful things. So we had to have a way to grade him fairly, and I think we've come up with about as fair a way as we can. But it's definitely changed his score, and we'll get to that. So I mentioned Tony Wilt just now. Wilt is chairman of the most important gun committee, the Public Safety Committee. He's chair of that, and there was one bill that committee had that didn't get heard. Because of that, he got docked 2 points for that bill. And that meant he had 38 good votes, 38 points and 2 bad points, giving him a 95% score. Edmonds is in the same boat. His was a bill that said you can hunt with a .223 rifle, hunt deer. Same thing there. That one was only a 1-pointer, but it brought him to 93%. Tommy Wright, same thing for him, I believe. I'll have to look. I'm not sure on that one. I'll have to look. He's at 93%. John Avoli's at 88%. John was another one of the committee chairs that got hit because the bill didn't make it. Barry Knight, the same thing. And now we get to so Barry Knight's at 88%. Then we get to Todd Gilbert. He's at 65%. Now he's normally a 100%er, and his voting, the actual voting, is 100%. But as speaker, quite a few of our bills ended up pocket vetoed, and so we had to dock him for that. Just as we docked the filler corn speaker the Democrats had for 2 years before this. She was docked the same way. The rules are the same for both of them. So, you know, that.
And just to remind people that missed it, you can go to vcdl.org/voting-records to take a look at what Phil's reading from.
Yeah, this is those coming in now. This is the VCL we just put out the rankings for this year's voting record for the House and the Senate. We put this out every year, and we've been going down the list. I mean, the list for the Republicans is extremely good. In the Senate, 15 of the 19 Republicans voted 100%. 45 of the 52 Republicans voted 100% with gun owners in the House. The Democrats, the best Democrat couldn't even come close to the worst Republican in the House. While in the Senate, by the way, looking back at the Senate, there were 2, Peterson and Bell beat out Hanger. So there were 2 Democrats in the Senate that beat out the lowest level Republican. All right, so back to this. So Todd Gilbert, again, as speaker, has certain capabilities that he does with again, that could deal with killing bills with pocket vetoes, and that's basically what has brought his score down to 65%. His actual voting is fine, but for a speaker, now again, Todd's been very, very good friend of gun owners. And some people are going to be shocked when they see this, but you've got to really understand the formula. When he became speaker, the rules changed. They just do. It's not anymore he just gets to vote on things. Now he gets to determine if a bill even gets a vote. That's some incredible power, and you've got to have a way to grade that. So so he was at 65%. Dawn Adams was the best Democrat. She was actually tied with about 7 or 8 of them that all got 29%. A lot of this was good votes on the switchblade bill. One of them that kind of stood out, although he got a 27% on the Democrat side in the House, was Nadarius Clark. This is a freshman. I think he's a permit holder, and he had a few good votes in there. Overall, he had 14 points that were pro-gun and 38 that were anti-gun. So, but he did have 14 pro. So most of the Democrats in the House did not get a 0 vote, unlike the Senate, which the majority had 0. The House is different. The House, the Democrats, they go down to 14%, and there's one at 13, a bunch of them at 12, one at 4%, Kay Corey, and there were 3 that had 0 in the House. Michael Mullen, he's down in Tidewater. I'm really surprised that the people in Tidewater are, well, as I recall, his last race was razor thin. He's voted wrong every single time. John Ward and Kathleen Murphy was at the bottom. She had no good votes, 14, no points, good points, 14 bad points. So Kathleen Murphy was at the bottom, which is no surprise.
It just means that gun owners need to get out and vote in every election all the time. Local elections, national elections, get out and vote. Have your friends vote, have their friends vote, have family vote. You can't just sit back and let somebody else, as Philip
And
says,
that includes primaries.
Yes, it does. Well, by the way, before I forget, there was one other thing I wanted to mention about the speaker. Let's see here. I have to look something up. We'll come back to that. Go ahead. Do you have anything?
So, yeah, a couple of things. So now that the session is over, all of your senators and delegates are going back to their home districts. So it's a perfect time for people that aren't in the Richmond area to make an appointment and go down and get some face time at the local office and sit down and talk to them, get to know them a little bit, let them get to know you as a person. You don't necessarily have to talk entirely about gun laws or anything like that. You can talk about other issues that are important to you. You can talk about fishing if you're both interested in fishing, but get to know the person. And then when you do go to them about a particular bill that you really care about, a gun bill, you already have a rapport. So, that's a good strategy, is to humanize yourself to your representatives and get to know them even on a first name basis. You should have their cell phone number in your phone.
They should know who you are, whether they like you or not is another story, but they should at least know you.
Yeah, yes. Maybe we should have a lobby week in the middle of summer or in the spring where we encourage our members for that week to make an appointment with one or both of their representatives to go down and meet with them, or do a Zoom with them, call them on the phone.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good idea.
Something, and we could all do that in 1 week. We could bombard them, and while they're in their district and have time to listen. And so I think I might put that in front of the board as something to consider. I do have the information I want to talk about on Todd Gilbert to finish up on the speaker. There's a situation where quite often a duplicate or triplicate or quadruplicate of a bill is put in by different people. So let's say you want to get rid of one handgun a month. You could have 4 delegates put in a bill independently of each other that does the same thing, exactly the same bill, but each one is put in their own bill. Now, historically, what's done with that is those 4 bills are merged together into one bill. They kind of pick who's going to carry the bill of the 4. I don't know if they flip a coin or how they come up with it, but one of the delegates or senators will then get all the other bills rolled into his, so that there's only one vote on that subject, on that exact bill, instead of 4 votes on exactly the same bill. So they roll them together. But this year they didn't do that, and I don't know why. It doesn't matter from our point of view. It makes no difference to us. But for example, there were like 4 bills in the House to take away the power of local government to pass local gun control. And rather than roll them together, don't know why they didn't, but they didn't. Instead, the speaker pocket vetoed 3 of them and let 1 go through. So looking at that and scratching my head over it, I said, well, the fair thing here is there's no point in docking the speaker for the 3 bills he pocket vetoed because they're duplicates of one that he let go through. It only takes 1 bill. 1 bill in the end is all that's going to be voted on anyhow. So there was really no harm, no foul in that. So he didn't get docked for the 3 that didn't make it. Now, if a bill didn't have another one that went through, then he would get docked for that. But there were a couple of those where there were all these duplicates, and all the duplicates stayed behind and just died a pocket veto, and one of them went forward. And that's fine. That's all we need. I just wanted to make a note on that. I'm, again, trying to be fair about this. And there again, it is the way it is. I'm sure that Gilbert probably has reasons for what he did, but all we know is we have a mission, and my job is to explain to Gilbert and all the other delegates what you guys want, what this organization wants, and that's me explaining to them what you want, not me explaining to you what they want. It doesn't matter. So that's up there, and have a look-see at that. And if you have any questions, let me know. Now, there may be another session coming up sometime, maybe in the summer. They had a few bills that didn't get finished off, and a couple of them kind of dealt with guns. So there may be an update to this at some point before the year's out. I may have a version 2 that has a few more extra votes in there.
You know, we were talking about apathetic gun owners and voters, and well, there's also been some people that just haven't stepping up the plate to work our gun shows. And I've been talking to Mike Wilbert about that. He's one of our gun show coordinators, and he was explaining to me like what's going on in working the gun show world. And I said, you know, that's a pretty important stuff. Why don't you come online with us and tell everyone about it? So I'd like to welcome to the program gun show coordinator Mike Wilbert, and I'll put his email up in the screen there.
Yeah, he's our statewide coordinator. He coordinates all the coordinators.
Right. But he said also he wants to, if anybody wants to email him, and I'll let him say his piece. But right there on the screen, instead of his name, Mike, I've got gunshowcord at vcdl.org. If you need to reach Mike. Mike, how you doing?
Doing well, thank you, Ed. And Phil and Pat, thank you for giving me a few minutes.
So tell us what's going on.
Well, we're finally coming out of the real doldrums out of the COVID. The COVID played hell with our gun show schedules. We were on again, off again. They were doing segmented attendance. It was very uncomfortable. Online sales only versus only at the door. You couldn't come up with another variety of ways to screw up a gun show than what had to be done to try to live under Northam's rule for crowds. But Showmasters is up and running full steam. SKG is as well, which are the 2 big promoters for the state. But as Ed said, part of the apathy we're running into, and I think we're feeling it a little bit more recently in the last 90 days, because we have a gun-friendly governor. And I think people are sitting back and taking a deep breath and saying, oh, we're okay now. And we're not. And while out in the western part of the state, Harrisonburg, Rockingham, Winchester, Salem, Roanoke, and such, where all our folks out there certainly are not under the intense anti-gun pressure that we feel in Northern Virginia, Tidewater, and Richmond. All right, what happens in those 3 anti-gun areas impacts the entire state, including our friends out in the far west part of the state. So I wanted to bring that up, that we got to get awake again. We have to shake the dust off. We're a little rusty, even the guys who had shows going through the whole thing. But we're back up to speed where we're looking at anywhere between 2 and 4 shows a month as we get into the spring and summer. So hopefully we'll be all the way back up and running. One of the things I wanted to mention was that we need newcomers. We need the first timers, brand new members. Please come on board. There is no experience necessary. We always have experienced member volunteers working every shift. So as you come on board, you can have somebody you can work right alongside of until you get your feet wet and you're ready to get into it. We work on shifts, which I think a lot of you know. that the shifts are generally for a Saturday or Sunday are 9 to 1 and 1 to 5. That can vary by an hour on each end, depending on the venue. But you work those 4 hours, you have plenty of free time to walk the show floor. Many vendors give our show volunteers discounts while you're there. The parking is free, admission is free. And it's a lot of fun. I'll tell you, it snared me. I can't remember how many years ago when I first started working gun shows. And I did one and I said, this is a lot of fun. Talking to people of like mind, meeting people from all over the state and all around the area, meeting other VCDL members that you've never met before. It's a great time. The next thing that we've done is we've expanded over the last 2 years a program we call OTGS, which is Other Than Gun Show. And those are things like car shows, antique shows, food shows, wine festivals. The Hanover Tomato Festival, of all things, they garner up to 30 to 35,000 people every year. So the exposure for VCDL in these kind of environments, even though it's not firearm intensive, even rights intensive or anything else, gives us a tremendous amount of exposure. But along with all those folks that are going to Other Than Gun Show events, you got to remember that an awful lot, a huge percentage of the gun show sales, of the firearm sales that have taken place since 2019 have been to first-time buyers. They're not comfortable necessarily being one-on-one in an environment, so you kind of catch them a little off guard here. And you can talk to them and chat with them, have casual conversations with them, and they get a chance to be exposed to what the real threats are to their rights. Because if they have not been involved with guns before, they may not really have any idea just the kind of pressure and intensity that's around anti-gun legislation and such in Virginia, even with a Youngkin in charge and 2 other statewide conservatives. So what I'd like you all to do, if you think about it, is look at your calendars, look at the coming events on the VCDL website. Always pay attention to the social media. I run ads for almost all of the shows and events that are out there as we try to get volunteers help. Please, if you have any questions about anything, you want to just sign up and put your name on a clipboard for the bench right now for a particular area, please go to that website that's below me right there, and I will personally follow up and answer them.
So, Mike, we have James Armbruster saying that he had volunteered and didn't hear back. What should somebody do in that situation?
Well, if it's, please, I want to know, because if they're writing into one of the gun show coordinators in an area and not hearing back, please get back to me, and I'll contact them and make sure I follow up. But I will follow up on mention to Ed that I'm going to follow up on every single person who emails me after tonight. I'm going to personally follow up and go through the local gun show coordinators as well to get them on the schedule. But even if there's not an event coming up immediately, let's get your name on the board so you're somebody we can call when the time comes.
And sometimes the coordinators are a little bit overwhelmed with one show or another. They get a really high response. We're working on getting assistant coordinators in all of our areas.
We've almost got that, Pat. We're real close.
We are. We still are looking for someone in Southwest Virginia, though. Al Steed has been doing the Salem gun show circuit for quite some time and doing a bang-up job, but he'd like to retire. So all three of our coordinators in the western part of the state, Winchester and Harrisonburg, Rockingham, and Al Steed down in Roanoke, Salem, are all looking for co-coordinators. Mm-hmm. And what the co-coordinator's position is a chance to be able. First of all, we started this where we're doing free admission with a membership at tables outside. And we needed people that were qualified and trained to be able to work those tables outside, and that's kind of where it started. But then we got to this OTGS situation where in a given market, for example, Central Virginia, right now we've got 3 main coordinators for the 3 specific markets in Central Virginia
but we have 7 co-coordinators because the activity on OTGS events is so extreme. We don't want to burn anybody out.
Right. And they have an excellent tag team going on there and down
Yes.
in the Eastern Shore area.
Yeah,
between-
we're developing that now with Brian. Yeah, that one's starting to come about.
Yeah.
James, James, go ahead. It's how if you want to know how to volunteer, go ahead and email Mike at gunshowcord@vcdl.org, and he will get back to you and get you on the roster.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I see James's comment there. He'd be happy to be an assistant coordinator. So
Great. That's
Yeah.
terrific.
yeah, thank you.
I will be in touch.
Yep. So
All right, before we let Mike go, does anybody else have any questions?
No, I
If you
mean,
got a question for Mike, put it on the chat right now.
one thing, Mike, I don't recall if you mentioned or not, if you do volunteer to work a shift at the gun show, you get into the gun show for free.
Yes, get into the gun show for free. The parking is free. And like I said, many of the vendors with both the Showmaster shows and the SKG shows offer our show volunteers a discount.
yeah, and I know when I work shows, I know I really enjoy, and sometimes I still drop by for a little bit at these things, but I really enjoy just the people coming up because they come to the VCDL booth because we even have the BATF sending people to our booth because we know Virginia gun laws.
Yep.
We know if you're looking for an answer on guns, come to the VCDL booth. I mean, the people there are knowledgeable, friendly. Well, it's hard to find somebody not friendly at a gun show, but our people are exceptionally so.
Well,
And
I've seen a couple ATF agents that weren't too friendly, but
Yeah.
people that are there voluntarily.
But as I mentioned, if you don't be nervous about it, if you haven't volunteered for a show before or you're a brand new member, we have experienced people at every shift to work with you. So you're not going to be left on your own. You'll have a chance to be hand-holding with somebody to get you up and started. It's been a real comfortable experience for folks, and I'm amazed how many first-timers I see and then continue to see their names come up on the rosters for shows after that.
Yeah, and I want to thank you, Mike, for what you're doing. I mean, it's a good job coordinating all the coordinators.
absolutely.
My pleasure.
Does a good job.
Mike takes the information for volunteers, and he does up a nice flyer, which is easier to read than just some text. And he sends it off to me after he goes through the co-coordinators and everybody else. He says, Ed, can you get this out on social? And then we put it out everywhere. It doesn't have to wait for an alert. And people usually respond to it right away.
Yep. The program is really working well. It's getting real smooth now. And once we get Tidewater up and running, I think out in that area, there are opportunities for other than gun show events that are going to be almost like Central Virginia. There's a lot going on there. I spoke with Brian on the phone the other day, who's our coordinator out of Hampton. And he's encouraging his people to look out for these. And he sent me a website, actually, of a Tidewater list from one of the newspapers or something publishes that has a list of hundreds of events going on in Tidewater.
Yeah, it's and all those events are opportunities. So
Yep.
it's if we play our cards right, now is the time when we should be able to be making some real headway.
I would hope so.
What's happening in the Ukraine has woken people up left and right about the importance of that right to keep and bear arms, not just for our defense, but for the defense of our very freedoms. This is a time when we should be making some real hay on this stuff.
So DJ wants to know, are the gun shows a significant source of revenue from the swag sales, or is it mainly a schmoozing opportunity? I think the answer is a little bit of both.
Most of our gun show income comes out of the memberships, obviously, because it's a higher price ticket, frankly, than the $1 or $2 buttons and patches and such that we sell. But in terms of a percentage of VCDL's income, that's something that Pat would have to address. I don't know.
Yeah, most of it is from the membership, and then from the merchandise sales. And then donations, although sometimes the donations can be pretty substantial as well.
Yes. Yep.
But VCDL runs off of the membership and the donations. And sadly, now that we're not facing mega gun control threats like we were a couple of years ago, a lot of people just didn't see the need to renew. And that's unfortunate, because now is the time when we have a more friendly legislative body. Now's the time when we can actually make some headway and make some progress. And now's the time we need the support to do that.
Yeah.
So,
Or they forgot if they renewed. If you don't know if you've renewed, you can go on the website vcdl.org and click on the top corner there, forgot password, and you'll get a link where you can log into your account. You can see what your status is. You can renew, you can donate, you can do lots of stuff under your own profile on the website.
right. And I put up, once you log in, there's a member forum page. It's kind of like a private version of Facebook, actually, where you can go in and talk with other members. And one of the questions that I put on the website, I think it was yesterday, was that we have the capability of putting a jobs board up where people, that gun-friendly people that have companies or are in positions where they're hiring people, can post jobs, and other people, members, can post their resumes. So I put a question up there. Would that be something you guys would be interested in? We have the capability on the website. All I have to do is turn it on. So let me know once you log in, comment on that post.
All right.
All right, Mike.
Again,
I don't see any more. I don't see any questions for you, Mike. So I just
Okay.
want to thank you for taking the time and jumping on and talking to us tonight.
And again, Ed and Philip and Pat, please, thank you very, very much for allowing me to come on. And for everybody who's listening, I'm looking at the list of comments, and I see some familiar names that have worked the shows. We don't get anything done without you.
Absolutely.
You make up the whole package.
Right.
So just
And-
join
Thanks
in.
again, Mike. Cheers to you. Appreciate you.
Yes, absolutely. Mike does a whole lot behind the scenes, and used to actually be a gun show coordinator himself.
Yeah.
But if you guys have a community event in your area, a community yard sale, or a neighborhood festival, or a church festival, anything like that, and there's an opportunity for VCDL to set up a booth there, especially if you want to volunteer to help man the booth, let us know. Contact Mike at that gun show coord at vcdl.org, and we'll get a team out there with a kit and set up a booth for the festivals. That's where we reach the most people. When we go to gun shows, we're preaching to the choir.
Yeah.
But when we go to these community festivals, we're reaching people that have never heard of VCDL before and don't know they need to care.
Yeah, there's 700,000 permit holders, and we have 60,000, less than a tenth of that on VA Alert, and less than that are members. There's a lot of people out there who don't know who we are that should know who we are, and that's how we reach them.
Yep.
I had a
Right,
customer today that came in, and I said, you get a $10 discount on your transfer fee if you're a VCDL member. And he said, I'm not worried about that. And then I said, well, they're the group that fight for your gun rights in Virginia. He said, sign me up.
Yeah.
Let me answer James' questions real quick. He asked, where do I get flyers for my local gun store? We basically have an adopt a store program.
Yep.
Where you can send an email to Bruce at vcdl.org, and he'll get you set up with everything you need to adopt that store and take care of collateral in that store, so that you can kind of manage their collateral and keep them up to date. So good question. Thanks, James.
Yep. And you can send that to adopt.a.store@vcdl.org.
Either way, it goes to Bruce, but that's where you can send it. Yeah,
Right.
I think that may actually go to a couple.
That
other people.
actually goes to more than one person,
Yeah.
because Bruce has people helping him.
Right. Right. So that's better. adopt.a.store@vcdl.org.
And I put that email in the chat. All right, Mike. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you all very much. Good night.
Yes.
Bye.
I also see comments from Christy Horton in the chat. She's one of our newest executive members. So
Was she asking about somebody was asking about the
impact of the redistricting in the
there should be something-
2023 Senate.
The PAC would be looking at that mostly. Pat, is the PAC looking at that at this time?
The PAC is looking at all kinds of things at the moment, and I have not been paying as much attention to that because I've had other things going on. But yeah, the redistricting will have quite a bit of impact. As a matter of fact, I got a call from John McGuire recently. They have moved his district around quite a bit, and he's going to be running for the state Senate instead of the House. So, when I talked to Philip about that, he was pretty excited because John will be running against Philip's Senator Hashmi.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And if he wins, I'm buying champagne and getting drunk.
And you don't even drink.
Yeah, and so it won't take much, will it? But although she won't, I don't think she will be my senator anyhow. The redistricting is lining me up, I think, with somebody new as well. So hopefully it can't get any worse.
Yeah, I think she was going to run in that same district from what John was saying, but things can change. There's still time before those elections.
Yeah, I think that's the 12th district. I think I'm going to be in the 10th.
And somebody else was asking me about when we're going to see a turnaround in the Senate. And unfortunately, it's not until the 2023 election that the Senate's going to change, correct? And then so that the new body would be actually in session in 2024.
So we have one more year of what we did this year. One more year to fight for every tiny little inch.
Which is why it's extremely important to get to know your representatives, your delegate and your senator over the summer, so that when we go back into session next year, then you already have a rapport with them and we can put a little bit more pressure to vote the right way.
Or maybe you can sit down with some of them and maybe put a little light on it. I've seen a few of our Democrat friends change their attitude when they learn certain facts. Senator Morrissey's an example of that.
Chap Peterson.
Yeah. So if you can present them with something that gets their attention, a lot of times just talking about how something affects you personally, what this means to your life about having this law or that law, that often helps too.
Absolutely.
So I was looking at doing like a show and tell, something a little different here. Pat, did you have something before I do that?
No, go ahead.
Okay. Well, with all the restrictions that we're working to get rid of out there, like carrying in parks in Fairfax County and Fairfax City and Arlington and all that, they all have a gun ban. So what would be options if you didn't want to carry a gun? You couldn't carry a gun there and you wanted to have some kind of an option. You didn't really want to walk in helpless. Well, there are things out there. There are things like stun guns. There's pepper spray. There's a knife like Ed's holding. But there's also this. This is not a firearm. This is a pepper ball launcher. And if you look at the size of the muzzle on that thing, you can see that's way bigger than a firearm. It's like 0.6. It's like 60 caliber. And this launches pepper balls using compressed air. It uses a cartridge like this, like you typically, very similar to what you'd use in a normal air gun, a pellet gun or a BB gun, CO2. And that cartridge goes in right underneath the barrel. There's a little area there. You unscrew something and push it in there and then close it. Now the thing that's interesting about that is the cartridge is not punctured when you put it in there. I've got a cartridge in this one right now. that cartridge will last forever unless I use the gun. If I pull the trigger, it'll puncture the cartridge, and then it's good for like 24 hours, and you can fire 20 shots with the cartridge. Now, it has
Have
this.
have Margaret shoot you with it, and let's see what happens.
Yeah, well, yeah. I was going to go over to your house and do a live test on you with this. It has a magazine that holds the ammunition, which is just a ball, and there are multiple types of ammunition for this. They have one that's called a kinetic round, which is what this one is on top. This gray little ball is a kinetic round. Sorry, the camera's backwards, so I'm having a hard time here. I have to move right to move left. That ball on top is a kinetic. It does not have any potassium or any tear gas. None of that's in there. It's just a hard plastic ball. However, if you're shot with this thing, you will have one massive welt. I mean, it will hurt like you've been stung by 50 bees. I made the mistake of shooting at a door at 60 feet away, just to see the accuracy at 60 feet, because they say the 60 feet's about the end of the distance. 20 feet, whatever, great. 60 feet sort of the end of the accuracy. But it put a hell of a dent in the door at 60 feet. So this thing was moving right on out. Now,
and the pepper balls, when they burst, they put about a 15-foot cloud of pepper powder. So the advantage to that over like pepper spray is right there where you are and going out in a stream. And if the wind is blowing in your face, then you're going to get peppered instead of the assailant. But the pepper balls in that gun, they go 50 feet or more?
Yeah, it's 300 feet per second, and they go out. You can shoot out to 60 feet. So somebody at 20 feet away, you can hit them, but the ball is solid all the way out, so you don't have to worry about something blowing back in your face.
Right, it bursts when it hits something like a paintball does.
Exactly. And if the person is, let's say it was winter and they got a really heavy coat on, and you're thinking, I don't know if it'll burst when it hits something that soft and that thick, you can shoot the wall next to them, the ceiling above them, any of that stuff, because
the ground at their feet,
object, that powder goes out. And I fired one of these out in my backyard, and I gave it, I think, like a minute I shot at a steel plate. You can see the powder going up, but I was 20 feet away or so, and I waited about a minute to let it all disperse. And I walked up there, and I'll be darned if one tiny little speck didn't get up my nose, and I had one heck of a sneezing fit. I couldn't believe I never sneezed so hard in my life. And that was
Did you video it?
No. Would have made a great video. Well, sneezing my brains out. So they color code these little balls. There's three types. Again, you have the gray, which is merely a kinetic, which is solid plastic, hurts like heck, but does not have any kind of powder in it or anything. Does not break apart. In fact, you can.
How much does it weigh?
The pellet,
the ball,
nothing. I mean, it's super light. I mean, it's like a little, I don't know a fishing lure weight. I mean, what it looks like, kind of thing. It's like no weight at all. Okay. Very, very light.
So it's not like shooting a pinball at somebody.
No,
it's more like a paintball type weight.
Yeah. It's very, very. There's nothing to it. I mean, I haven't weighed it, but it's way, 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 way less. It's like way less than an ounce. But so they have that. This one is a more wicked one. This one has not only pepper in it, it also has tear gas powder. So this thing gets you from all different directions. And then they have one that's just pepper. Pepper. So.
Yeah, DJ was talking about you shooting your tacos to put hot sauce on them.
Yeah, you could do it at a distance.
Yeah.
I could tell Margaret, here, hold up my taco so I can put some.
I don't think Margaret would do that for you.
No, I don't think so.
I don't think she loves you that much.
No, I'm pretty sure she doesn't. So again, it has a magazine, so you can have a spare magazine. The magazine holds 5 shots, and so to load the gun is or they call it a launcher because it's obviously not a firearm. You simply let me move this back. I push in the magazine just like you would if it were a firearm. Just push it in. It's got a magazine release, most of your firearms right there by the trigger guard. And when you push it in, you just push it in, it's loaded. You don't have the slide does not rack. This is not a real gun. So this is all solid plastic up here. There is no slide to go back and forth.
Michael's asking the price of the gun and the pepper balls.
Okay, the gun. I mean, these are not cheap. This is about the price of a real gun. This was like $500 and something.
Right. That's for a kit that comes with the magazines and several tubes of the balls. So.
And some of the
CO2
CO2
tubes, yeah.
as well. So it's a starter kit.
And for those legalese, the definition of a firearm about expelling a projectile from an explosion doesn't count in this because it's just air.
Right.
Yeah, it's a BB gun in essence, on steroids, but it is not a firearm, and therefore would be exempt from all these prohibitions in parks and so forth. To unload this thing, you take the magazine out. Like I said, it loads itself. On the top, there's a little thing that sticks up to show you that it's loaded. To unload it, you would push down on that, and it will then release. It releases the ball that was in there. Now it's unloaded completely with this part down and the magazine out of the gun. It's now unloaded. Again, there's nothing to rack to look at the chamber. You have to go by the loaded indicator on top. They make holsters for this. Get one that will do either inside the waistband or outside the waistband. They also, and I bought this one recently. It's a leather holster, and this really looks professional when you've got this combination on your hip. I mean, this sucker looks like it's a gun, and it does have a safety on. I will note on the safety that on this gun, the way it's designed, the safety will let you pull the trigger, but it won't fire. But there's a significant point here. If you're on safety and you pull the trigger, it will still puncture the CO2 tube. And so now you've activated even though it's not firing. Then if you drop the safety, it'll begin to fire, but it will have already pre-punctured the tube. But you need to know that. So if it's on safety, even then stay away from the trigger unless you plan on using the gun.
So Philip, how do you puncture the tube initially if you have to use the thing?
You just put it in. You pull the trigger. The trigger will puncture it when you pull it.
Okay.
Safety on or off.
Puncture it if you pull it with the safety on or off. It doesn't matter. That first pull will puncture the CO2 container and then
and fire the cartridge.
And if the safety's off, and fire the gun.
Okay.
So you just pull the trigger. It goes pop, and you pull the trigger again. It goes pop, and it'll do that 5 times. Drop your mag, put in another one. You got 5 more. So I just wanted to point this out, and there are other options out there, but I really thought this was a pretty cool idea when you can't have a firearm to have something that is pretty darn good for self-defense, I would say. This is far better, in my opinion, than pepper spray. It's better than a taser. A taser, you've got to be within a certain distance of the person. That's a fairly short distance. This thing
so what do you think? We offer $100 VCDL store gift certificate to allow someone to have you shoot them.
I thought Bruce had volunteered for that anyway.
Yeah,
we've got 3 board members here. Let's vote to do it. I vote we shoot Bruce with it.
Yeah. That's what he gets for not showing up.
Yeah.
Anyhow, that's all I had on show and tell. I just thought people might be interested in that for all these gun-free zones until we can get rid of them. Then we won't have to worry about this. But you know what? That's legal in other states as well. If you're going to a state that doesn't allow you to have a handgun, you might check the laws on what they do with air pistols and with things like pepper spray.
That's cool. Thanks for sharing that. I have something else for you terrorists to talk about.
What is that?
Well, you're a terrorist. Do you like being called a terrorist?
Absolutely not.
Do you, Philip?
Oh, no. That's the last thing we are.
Somebody called us a terrorist. Yeah. You know who that was?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I do.
What should we do about that?
Yeah, well, we're suing the organization that did that. Yeah, calling us domestic terrorists. So that's a lawsuit that's going. You guys heard about that a few months ago. But like all these things, they cost money. So, we're open if anybody wants to put in any donations to help offset the cost of the attorneys to do this stuff. That would be great. But that's one of many suits that we've got going on. That's the only one of that nature.
So
Right.
Of course, we're still suing each other.
VCDL.org/donate, and you can send some money towards the lawsuit to help the suit, because attorneys and courts and things like that cost money.
Yep. And Lori Haas should not be allowed to call us. All of the VCDL members, by the way, called them terrorists. And, we just can't let that stand.
No.
DJ and Abel. So if you're interested in those guns, and DJ, they come in different colors. So you can get one that's blaze orange and it doesn't look like a gun. And I can order them for you if you want me to. You can email me, secretary@vcdl.org, and I'll give you the information for my gun store and get you prices and what's available right at the moment.
Yeah, if you want to look at the website for the gun, somebody asked about that. I completely forgot to mention. What is this? Go to BYRNA, Byrna, like the burning that you get by getting hit with pepper spray. Byrna, BYNRA.com. And there you can see that. And they actually show it being shot on a few people. They've got some people that did volunteer to get hit with this stuff. So
BYRNA. Byrna.
I don't know that blazed orange will mean it's not a gun, because a lot of my guns are all different colors.
Sure.
Oh, I know.
Yeah. Look, the point, I see that DJ said the main thing I don't like about this, it looks like a gun. Well, that's the thing I liked about it. Right. You and I will differ on that. And if I draw it and the threat is real as a real gun, I lose. Well, maybe, yeah, but you're going to lose anyhow. I mean, that's the whole point. At least with this, you might be able to get a shot in. If they get hit in the face with this thing, it's going to incapacitate them long enough for you to be able to get away. You can use whatever you want, obviously, but I've thought about that. But no, in fact, in either case, merely sometimes presenting a gun, in this case, even if it's not a gun, will be enough to end the issue.
And there's other ball launchers. I've got some in my shop that are single shot that they're about the size of a pen light, and they're refillable. And they're great for if you're like jogging and wearing the jogging shorts and so forth. And then I've got one that's a flashlight and a pepper ball launcher, and it has a laser to aim your pepper balls with. So, and that holds 3 shots, I think, but that's bigger and heavier. So the thing I like about the Byrna is that it is like a gun and it presents like a gun and you can carry it like a gun. So your muscle memory works for you. So if you're in a bad situation and you reach for your gun, there's nothing worse than reaching for your gun and it's not there.
Yeah. Yeah. With this, with that holster I showed you, that leather holster, I mean, it's, everything works the way you would expect a firearm to work. I don't have to no retraining or anything. It's point and click interface, just like a real gun. So there are a lot of options, a lot of different philosophies you might use as to how you want to do self-defense. But having thought it through, that's what I'd like for what I do. And let's see, there was another question. Oh, the question came up about the meeting at Virginia Beach. Yeah, Virginia Beach. It was interesting what happened in Virginia Beach. Those who didn't get to watch that. Normally, when somebody puts in a resolution or an ordinance, and they have a substitute to replace it with, normally the first order of business is to do that replacement, for the city council to vote to take the substitute and replace the original bill with the substitute. That's the normal way it's done in the General Assembly, and everywhere I've been, that's how they do it. Because there's no point in talking about a resolution or an ordinance or a gun bill that's not going to be what we're dealing with. Why talk about that? Because we're going to throw it in the trash and we're going to bring in a different replacement one. That's the one you want to talk about because that's the one you're going to vote on. Well, for whatever reason, Miss Wooten didn't do that. Her original resolution came up, the one that we opposed because it was talking about a memorial to gun violence victims. The whole thing, we rejected the whole concept. And so they had all these speakers, including me, talk about it. When I spoke, I'm sitting there going, "This is weird," because I'm against the one that she's got right now, but I communicated with her. I knew she was going to replace it, so I went ahead and commented. I said the replacement one that's coming out, we're neutral on that. I said that one gets rid of the word gun. It makes this an all-encompassing thing, looking at people that have lost loved ones too soon. And I said, we don't take a position on that. That's outside our bailiwick. It doesn't deal with guns. And so she did then, after all the comments came in, all the Moms Demand Action people up there, all saying how they loved her for putting in this thing that would make a memorial for gun violence victims, then only to find out that I was right. And she then introduced, after all the speakers were done, then she introduced her resolution that only talked about people that had lost loved ones too soon due to violence, due to COVID, due to whatever. And the resolution ended up dying. She couldn't even get a second on it. Nobody seconded it. It just died immediately. They didn't even take a vote. I was surprised at that. She couldn't get 1 second, but nobody even seconded that. And she certainly wouldn't have got one on the original resolution that we opposed. She wouldn't have got any there either. So it didn't really help her. But I think Moms Demand Action probably walked out with their tail between their legs on that one because they really thought this was going to go somewhere, and they didn't realize that something completely different was coming in the door. So that's what happened. At the end of the day, it wasn't really worth driving out there, and that's why I kind of give everybody a heads up there was going to be a change. One person did, and it was good that they showed up down there. I appreciate that. They also did a report to me. They didn't know I was watching a lot of that. So we shared some information about it all. But he also agreed that it was weird that everybody was commenting on a resolution that wasn't even going to be voted on. So,
by the way, I see Vincent Smith commenting on the Facebook page. Vincent is our watch team leader down there in the Virginia Beach area. He's the one that brought this to VCDL's attention. We have watch teams all over the state, and you don't have to actually be on the watch team to bring something to our attention. If you see something local government's doing, you can email president@vcdl.org and let him know. That's how we keep up with things, is you guys are our eyes and ears out there on the street.
Right, and Vincent is our eyes, one of them in Virginia Beach. We have, I forget, 160 people that do this, but it's important that people that do that are actually watching carefully because this stuff, gun control, just sneaks in. It'll come in out of the cold blue. We've seen it pop up in places that we never thought it would pop up in, but that's why we need people watching. Don't trust but verify. If you think you live in a safe area, right. Trust but verify because it may not be as safe as you think.
Right. That includes your school boards also, your local government, your school boards, all of that stuff.
Absolutely. School boards are something we may end up doing, doing surveys on because, school boards can now have a limited ability to pass gun control. So we want to look carefully at who's on school boards. We're going to.
I went to a new I went to a new doctor, and with a questionnaire, when she was going through the questionnaire, she's like, "Do you have any guns in your home?" And I'm like, "Heck, I got guns in your office."
You mean like this one? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, my doctor is a gun owner, so.
Mine too. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Well, both of mine are both gun owners. Yeah. So. Yep.
Cool.
All right. Any other questions out there? Let me scroll through the.
Yeah, sometimes this stuff comes in so fast, it's hard to keep up with it.
just a reminder while they look through the questions, if you want to donate, whether it's for the lawsuit or just a general donation to the general fund or the PAC, you can donate at vcdl.org/donate. If you're watching this and you're not yet a member, we encourage you to join, and you can join at vcdl.org/join. And if you don't know what you want, just go to vcdl.org and browse our website. There's lots of information on there where you can carry. You can buy shirts and gear and challenge coins and all types of stuff. And you can find a lot of information there. And certainly tell your friends about us. Right?
Philip,
Nothing else?
Yeah.
when does the switchblade bill take effect?
July 1. On July 1, you can then legally possess a switchblade.
And open carry.
But you somehow we don't. I think I'm gonna have John Pierce come up, and maybe next time we do one of these, I might have John on if I can get him as a special guest to talk about, or maybe I'll have him write an article on this whole issue of switchblades, about the law. And I'll be talking with him about ideas of how one could openly carry one, so that you could have it on your person. You can't just drop it in your pocket. That's concealed, and your concealed handgun permit does not cover it. So you could get a concealed weapon charge, even though you've got a permit to carry a concealed handgun. We either need to change our permit to be a concealed weapon permit, which it used to be before when we were a may issue state, it was a concealed weapon. So that covered anything you wanted, anything on the list, nunchucks or throwing
stars,
all that stuff. Who really cares? I think all that stuff was all put on there because of movies. Honest to God, I think the Switchblade went on there because of West Side Story in the 50s, a movie, a musical about the two gangs in New York that had a fight scene in there with switchblades. And right after that, all kinds of states were, did you see that movie? Oh, we've got to ban switchblades. That's how stupid laws are in this country. And I think the same thing happened with throwing stars. Oh, did you see, threw that star and it hit him in the head and he died? So that got put on the list and got, all this. So you got to start going down. There's very few things that make sense. Machetes are on that list. You can't have a
walking is very dangerous. I fell once.
Yeah, ban the ground. But, machete, I remember when that came in. And that's because MS-13 was macheting off people's hands.
So DJ's asking why VCDL cares about switchblades when they went out of fashion with the Sharks and the Jets.
Well, it falls under arms.
Self-defense.
Arms, the right to bear arms. Arms just aren't guns. They're all kinds of things. And by the way, before I forget, there was also a video that I was looking at that was talking about the importance of having insurance as a gun owner in case you have to do self-defense. And they did make a good point to try to make sure that your insurance covers weapons other than guns as well. So that if you have, your gun jams and you have to pull out a knife and you end up stabbing the guy that's trying to kill you, that's covered under your insurance policy. Most of them, I think, do, but some of them don't. I think they're strict. Some of them are just strictly firearms. So that's something to think about, because a weapon is literally anything you pick up to use to protect yourself. I mean, a lamp is normally a lamp, but if you hit somebody with it really hard trying to hurt them, it's a weapon. So anyhow.
Yep. I see Al Steed on here. Al is an executive member and gun show coordinator down in Southwest Virginia. And he says that a sitting city councilman in Roanoke has been convicted of bilking the city out of $15,000 in pandemic funds.
Okay.
Yep. So
that's the city, right? Yeah. City of Roanoke. I'm not surprised.
Yeah. So the city of Roanoke has been a thorn in our side as far as wanting to pass gun control and stuff too, right?
Yeah, they're very anti-rights. They very much for gun control and all the bad stuff that goes with it. So I'm not sure.
Looks like they have more to worry about than gun rights right now. Need to take care of what's going on in their own house.
Yep. All right. That's pretty much all I have.
Yeah, I
You
think
guys-
so. I'll try to get something from John a little bit more on switchblades. We have till July. I'm going to order one and have it shipped here. It should arrive on hopefully July 1st.
Mhm.
But
Take a look at those voting records that Philip read earlier, and send a note to the Nick Friedises and the Tim Andersons and the Marie Marches and thank them. Thank them
Right.
for their vote. Don't just yell at people when they don't vote wrong.
yeah,
Certainly thank them for when they vote correctly.
yeah, we're all
Yeah.
that way. We're all human. We like, we sometimes we do things wrong and we get scalded for it, but it's also good to be acknowledged when we're doing things right and have done good things.
Well, think about it too, that when you have senators and delegates that are voting our way, they probably are hearing from people that would prefer that they don't vote our way. And it really helps to balance things out and make you feel like you're not drowning in a sea of criticism if people that you stood up for call you or email you and say, hey, thanks a lot. We really appreciate you standing up for our rights.
And they care and they remember. I remember Philip talks about this story where this person that was a Democrat running, they sat in the seat for a long time. And the first time they were ever challenged, they were just miserable and heartbroken and everything else. The fact that somebody was actually going to challenge them in their seat, they were just, they all pay attention, believe it or not.
Yeah, I mean, you also try to make friends wherever you can. It's better to have friends than enemies. But
Yep.
definitely give him praise, like I say. And if you're in Mark Obenshane's district, I mean, he's number one. If you're in Friedis's district, Delegate Friedis, he's number one. So be extra sure to thank them for continuing to be strong leaders in protecting the rights that people have died for to provide to us.
Right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us. It was another great session. Thank you, Philip. Thank you, Pat. And
Thank you, Ed.
wish you all a happy and safe St. Patrick's Day. If you're out drinking your green beer tonight, make sure you get a ride home so that you don't get in any trouble.
My beer is brown, but it's Guinness. Does that count?
And you're probably drinking it out of a homemade pot. Show one of the pots or something you took out of the kiln.
So
Pat
this
made
is one of
those.
the homemade mugs. I don't have the plates here handy. Let me see. I think I got a bowl.
And if somebody wants to follow your pot page or whatever.
Yeah,
what's your-
Pat's pot
Pat-
page on all
Pat-
social media. That's
Pat's
a
pot
porcelain.
page.
Yep, I'm a pot dealer as well. Ceramic pots.
Pots and guns. Never think they mix.
Oh, they do. And the bad ones I can take to the range and shoot. James, you were asking about a contact list of emails. That's what I was looking up here. So if you go to the VCDL.org under About, there's a drop-down list, and officers and board members are on one, and staff and coordinators are on another. And I will put that Adopt the Store under staff and coordinators later on tonight or tomorrow. That's a good idea. Thanks for reminding me about that.
Good. All right. Thank you, everybody.
You can find all the emails for contacts on our website. Have a good night, y'all.
Night.
Good night.